Back on the Chad Easty Show. News Talk 95.1 FM, 790 AM, KFYO. Joining us on the phones this morning. It's going to be a really very timely event going on over at the Student Union Building in the Red Raider Ballroom this evening from 6 to 7 p.m. It's economics, freedom, health, and the COVID-19 pandemic. Joining us on the phones, our great friend over at the Free Market Institute at Texas Tech. It's the Executive Director, Dr. Benjamin Powell. And also joining us on the phones, we have Dr. Alexander Salter, who is Associate Professor of Economics and Free Market Institute Comparative Economics Research Fellow. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, buddy, good to be with you again.
Yeah, great to have you on the program. Obviously, this is very timely. We've got not only COVID-19 that is still spreading in Lubbock, it's spreading everywhere, but also we've got rollbacks that are going on, and you have at least one party that's still talking about possible shutdowns in the future. Talk about what people are going to be hearing about this evening at this lecture.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Chad, this event is more timely than I would like, with the possibility of seeing rollbacks here in Lubbock. So there's going to be three of us. In addition to Alex and I, Dr. Gilbert Burdine from the med school will be on here, and it's going to be a panel discussion. Dr. Burdine's obviously going to talk more about the health impacts of lockdowns and other policy responses to it. I'll be talking about the economic logic of dealing with pandemics and how governments have screwed this up in terms of their regulations across the United States and the rest of the world. And, well, I'll let Alex tell you what he'll be talking about.
Yeah. Hey, Alex, go ahead and talk to us about what you'll be presenting this evening.
Good morning. I'm happy to. So I'm going to be talking about the macroeconomic response to the crisis, focusing on the Federal Reserve. To make a long story short, our central bank has been up to some money mischief since this whole event started, and I think that they're using the pandemic as an excuse to innovate in their powers in a way that's broadly not beneficial for Americans. In fact, it's downright bad for Americans. So I'm going to be talking about what the central bank's been up to, what they should have done instead, and what we can do about it.
You know, gentlemen, when you look at how the United States has handled things, and I don't know if you're going to be breaking it down by, which states did what, how Texas has responded versus maybe New York State. But you look at, Texas or the United States and other nations are always kind of compared. Did other nations do it better than the United States, or did the United States do it better than everybody else?
Well, there's countries that have done it better and worse than us. I think Gilbert in his remarks is going to talk a little bit about Sweden, which has been famous for being the lightest version of restriction in this, and how initially they had some higher death rates, but now they're very low while the rest of Europe is surging. I think governments across the United States, now you mentioned different states, New York, New Jersey, California, these are some of the most locked down, some of the worst when we look at the overall consequences for the citizens. Texas is more of a mixed bag. But I think all of these things, too, in addition to the short-run consequences, the long-run consequences for future infringements upon our economic liberties and our other freedoms as the government has gained new powers through this, I think are quite scary.
Well, Dr. Powell, I mean, what is to stop a state like, let's say, I don't know, California, from declaring a public health emergency far worse than the virus, climate change, and shutting down different portions of the economy? I mean, one could see that happening, right? Where they just claim total power and shut down portions of the economy because there is this general threat to people's health.
I think if they can steer their population enough, they can get away with a hell of a lot, and that's what we've seen during this pandemic.
Yeah.
This has been the biggest change in terms of our economic liberties overall, I think, in my lifetime, and the response is even much greater than what we saw after 9/11.
Dr. Salter, we had a few people who were texting in. If you can, just give us I don't want you to give your whole speech away tonight, but maybe what's one example of kind of what the central bank is doing that you're not a fan of?
In brief, the central bank is engaged in fiscal policy. They're directly allocating resources. That's supposed to be Congress's job, right? There's a reason that we leave taxing and spending decisions to Congress, because we want the people's representatives to handle those kinds of decisions, which means we want genuine small d democratic input into how those decisions are made. Now, partly with Congress's permission, but also partly just because they're making hog wild with their new powers, the Federal Reserve is going beyond providing markets with basic liquidity to actually allocating resources, picking winners and losers, giving cheap credit to large established corporations when really there's no call for it. There's no call for it. They're saying that it's to prevent another financial crisis, but we are never at the risk of another financial crisis. If you look at all the measures of financial stress, we're just not there. So I regard this as a power grab. I regard this as the central bank doing what Congress and Congress alone should be doing if, in fact, Congress decides it wants to do it. That's bad for checks and balances. That's bad for the separation of powers. That's bad for American liberty.
It's going to be a very timely and very good event tonight. Dr. Powell, tell folks how they can attend, either in person or I guess online, and what time and where they need to be at.
Yeah, a little bit different than usual, Chad. So it's going to be from 6 to 7 p.m. in the Raider Ballroom in the Student Union building. But it is still free and open to the general public, but you do have to pre-register so that we can comply with Texas Tech safety protocols. So if you go to fmi.ttu.edu, right on the front page there, you'll see the event. And there's a button to pre-register. We're capped at 100 people. You are required to wear face masks, and people will be 6 feet socially distanced. Pre-register if you'd like to attend in person, but there's also a link there to watch it live stream online if you'd rather watch from home on this icy October day in Lubbock.
Yeah, and when you're on your couch, you don't have to wear a face mask, and you can socially distance if you want to, if you're at your own house.
Or you could even raise a glass while watching.
Hey, there you go. I like that. Dr. Ben Powell, as always, appreciate your time today. Dr. Salter, appreciate you for joining us as well. Going to be a good event tonight over at Texas Tech, and always appreciate all the work you guys do over at the Free Market Institute.
All right. Appreciate
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's folks over at the Texas Tech Free Market Institute. A very timely discussion tonight over COVID-19. When we come back, we'll take your phone calls, your text, and hey, there's Rob Bro over on the other side. We'll be right back.